looks like we're live. Hard for me to see, but I think we are. Today is Yoga for Stress. It's a stand the ground class. No intense, not too many intense strength poses, and we don't get up and do any balancing poses. We do a little bit of hand and feet balancing, but not any on your feet balancing or strenuous poses on your feet. We're just looking to connect, ground, relax, land on our mat, and release some stress. So we are going to start in crocodile today. So come on down to your stomach, face down. If crocodile is not comfortable for you to begin in, you're welcome to start in child's. But if you're comfortable in crocodile, coming down to your stomach, one hand on top of the other, forehead down. Find that pressure point in the center of your forehead. Connect with this spot. Give the hips a little shimmy. Loosen the lower back. Loosen the neck and the shoulders. Find your breath and let go. So notice what it feels like to slow your breath down and draw it in deeply with a little bit of compression on your front, on your stomach. Perhaps connecting with your entire front line. You have nerves that run down the front here, so maybe connecting that mind-body connection, filling up your breath and your torso. Feeling a little bit of compression all the way down the front of your torso. See if you can loosen around the temples a little more. See if you can soften around the cheeks. See if you can really soften at that meeting place of the skull and the neck, right where your neck meets your skull. And then bring awareness back to that point where your hands are touching your forehead, right in the center of the forehead. And as if your thoughts could become an internal TV screen, imagine turning on a TV screen right on the front of your forehead here, on the back of your forehead here. And as if you could sit in the center of your brain and look at your TV screen, notice what's going on here. Notice what is present. Try to just look at it as if you're skipping through TV channels. Just notice what is here. Notice whatever judgments come up. If your thoughts are racing and you're frustrated with yourself, just notice that. Ask yourself why you think there should be a right and a wrong way to think. And then imagine you could just flip the channel if you get stuck in a thought pattern. Imagine you could just change the TV channel. Try something else. Maybe for today's practice, choosing a thought pattern to focus on. Perhaps a little intention. Could be something as simple as I will be present. Or something that you're working on for a longer period of time. For example, if you're working on self-worth, perhaps your sentence, your intention could be, I am worthy. Something to come back to and to repeat, to help practice single point focus whenever we get distracted. Like turning on a familiar TV station and sinking into a familiar pattern. And keeping a little bit of pressure in front of the forehead, keeping our head down. If you're in child's, move into crocodile. We're going to start to move and breathe. We're going to move, inhale, lift our feet up, and exhale, lower. Just starting to activate the legs. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. Notice if your lower back feels like it's doing all of the work, or if you're over squeezing the glutes. Try to keep even use of all the muscles from the mid-back down to the toes. Try changing the angle of your pelvis if you're having any pinching sensations in the back. Try squeezing the lower stomach a little more. Pull it towards the spine. See if that adjusts anything in your back. Start to have an internal experience. Try turning on muscles. Try really noticing what is working harder than other muscles. And then bring your feet up to a hover, and we're going to take them out and in. Slow, controlled, just starting to connect with our breath. And then bring your feet down. Give your hips a shuffle to let your back reset. And then we'll work on the upper body. So bringing the hands to wherever they are comfortable. And we're going to think about lifting our shoulders, not our skull. Inhale as we lift, and exhale as we lower. Inhale, lift, and exhale, lower. Thinking about getting long from the tailbone to the crown of the head. Making space for our spine, using the whole back evenly, using the muscles behind the shoulders, the mid-back, the glutes. Start to fire up the backs of the legs. Start to even engage a little bit of that lower core. And then maybe combining lifting the feet and the shoulders. And then come on up to a hover, a low hover, not a high hover. Engage. And then bring the arms out even with the shoulders. If you can bring them down onto the ground if this is too much. If you can, hover them. And we're going to inhale, lift a little more. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Find your breath. And then bring your whole body back down to the ground. Rest into crocodile. Shimmy the hips. And then we turned all of the back muscles on. So see if you can now find the opposite. What does it feel like to truly soften all of the back muscles? Slowly come on up to your forearms, and your elbows do not need to be in a certain position. Find the position that your arms are comfortable and your shoulders are comfortable. Start to engage your forearms, pressing your forearms down onto the ground and pulling them apart. So start to really engage the front of the shoulders. Any pinching in the back, press your hips down, engage your stomach, and pull your stomach towards your spine, then lift the shoulders a little more. Feel like you're trying to pull your chest through your shoulders rather than get your head back. Breathe and hold. And then we're going to do a cleansing breath, lion's breath. Inhaling in and ha out. And we're going to stick our tongues out when we ha out. We're going to do it 3 times and then come back to crocodile. So taking a really long, slow breath in to prepare and then ha out 3 times. Inhale. Louder. And then bring it down. Find that point in the forehead and notice any sensations. From here, we're going to roll over onto our backs. Taking it nice and slow. Come on over and set up on your back. Hips on the ground, feet on the ground, knees up. And play with where your feet are, closer to the glutes or further away. Just where your back, your lower back is comfortable. Feel that point. It's different for everyone. Get your hips on the ground. Knees can knock in towards center. Rib cage on the ground, back of the head on the ground, nice gap for your neck, chin to the ceiling, land. So we had all that face down. Take your arms out, palms up, and let your shoulders come down to the ground even more. And notice what it feels like to have the entire front line open now. Begin to feel the back sinking into the ground. Find that long, slow breath. And we worked the back, so now we're going to work the front of the torso, bringing the knees up above the hips and the ankles even with the knees. Press the hips down into the ground, press the rib cage down into the ground. To do that, you should already have fired up your stomach. This might already be hard work. Hold and hover the knees. Actively press the hips down. Actively press the rib cage down. Hold here. Fire up the legs, maybe bring the toes towards the shins a little more. Hold, squeeze a little more. And then squeeze the knees together. Squeeze the ankles together, still holding and hovering, still pushing the hips down, still pushing the rib cage down. This should still feel active and strong in the core. Keeping the shoulders really tight on the ground. Take the knees a little bit over to the right. Left hip can pop up. Squeeze the core to hold stable. Hold. Hover. Squeeze the legs. Squeeze the rib cage down onto the ground. Squeeze the stomach close to the spine. Bring the knees slowly back through center. Slow as you can, using your muscles. Bring the knees a little bit over to the left, squeezing, and maybe that right hip pops up a little bit. As long as you're squeezing the core, make the core move the knees. Squeeze. Check in on the neck. See if you brought some tension into your neck. Maybe your face. Soften your face. Squeeze the legs, squeeze the core. Bring it back to center. Still holding. Now press the hips back down into the ground. Breathe and hold. So strengthen that core with a really small, subtle movement. We're going to slowly take our feet away from us. So press your feet active, like you're really pressing your feet away, still keeping the hips pressed into the ground.
Rib cage pressed into the ground. Hold.
So ridiculous.
Bring the knees in. You're on the ground. It's a really tiny movement. How can you be so... Bring the knees back above the hips. Press the feet away. Press, press, press. Strong legs. Notice if you wanted to push your hands into the ground. You can do that. Feel free to do that and help with your hands. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Bring the knees back. Bring your knees in. Give yourself a little hug. Rock it and take a little break. Otherwise, Kayla's going to start complaining too much.
Evil.
It's just a teeny bit forward.
It's not.
All right, we're going to bring the knees back to a hover above the hips. Set up, press hips down, press rib cage down. This time we are going to use our hands. So take your hands down towards the hips, not close to the hips. Press into the ground with your hands. Bring your feet up even with your knees. You can hold them apart or squeeze them together. Hold and hover. And then we're going to lift up our shoulders and hold and hover. Try not to bring the tension into the neck. Bring your shoulders up just as we did with our back. You can use the hands to press into the ground and bring yourself up a little more. Draw that stomach towards the spine. And then we're going to take our right elbow past our left knee, our right hand past our left knee. Little pulses. Take the tension out of the neck. Breathe. Take the tension out of the face. Bring that right hand down. Left hand goes past the left knee, right knee, and pulse. Pulse. Breathe. Press the hips down into the ground. Small, tiny movement. Bring it back down. Land shoulders on the ground. Bring knees in. Give yourself a little hug and reset. Bring the feet down to the ground. If you have a block and you would like to use a block, you're going to squeeze the block between the knees, just underneath the knee. So between the thighs. Get your hips even on the ground. Rib cage pressing down into the ground. Squeeze the block. If you do not have a block, just squeeze your knees together. Land the feet on the ground. Pull the toes up. Press into the ground like you're pushing your feet away from you without letting yourself move. This should feel like work already. Push the hips down. Push the rib cage down. Squeeze the legs together. And then take little tiny left rights. So your knees are going to move about an inch left to right, not much. At first this will feel like nothing, and then you'll figure out the muscles we're trying to isolate. They're really deep, they're really small, they're close to the spine. Notice if you're compensating. Squeeze more in the legs. Squeeze the hips down to the ground. Really squeeze the hips down. Squeeze the rib cage down. Check in on the neck. See if your neck is soft. Squeeze and move, nice and slow. Find your breath. Squeeze, squeeze, push into your feet. I can see your feet are not working. Your legs, every muscle in your legs should be tight. Press your rib cage down into the ground. Press your hips into the ground. Move left to right, squeezing the block. Bring your knees back to center. Press your feet away from you. So you're really pushing into the ground to push your feet away, like you're really pushing on something. Push, push, push into your legs. Push your hips down into the ground, and then you're going to roll your neck as if your head were dead weight. So just rolling your head side to side. Now we're just looking to reduce some tension in the neck. So just see if you can get your head to move side to side softly without muscular tension in the neck. While the bottom half of you isn't slightly engaged. And then land your chin all the way over to the left. And just feel the right side. Maybe bringing the right hand down onto the ground, palm down, and press into the ground just a little bit. Fire up the whole right side. Take a deep breath in and then suddenly release. Still lightly engaged in the feet and the legs. Take your chin all the way over to the right shoulder. Feel the left side. Maybe engage the left hand pressing into the ground. Take a deep breath in and then suddenly release. Bring the chin back to neutral. Squeeze the block. Now we're going to lift the hips just a teeny bit off the ground. Squeeze the block a little more. Engage the stomach. Engage the glutes. Feel like you're pulling the heels towards you this time. And then we're going to inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Small movement. Don't bring your hips all the way down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Small and engaged, tiny movement while squeezing the block or squeezing your knees together. And then lower the hips. Remove the block if you have it. Bring your knees in. Give yourself a little hug. And you can rock it. Reset. Let go. Take your feet up towards the ceiling. Wiggle the toes. Let the hips land in the ground, so we're still pressing them into the ground. Bring the toes towards the shins. And then we're going to take really slow circles with the feet, as if we're trying to feel every point of the circle. And try to make the circle with the feet, not the legs. So try to isolate the legs. It can help if you hold on to the leg in any point, just so the brain knows to not cheat the movement. We're thinking about our ankles, making space in our ankle. Notice if there's any point of your circle that feels particularly clicky, or particularly tight, or particularly weak. Just notice. Feel your feet. And then bring the feet down towards the shins. Turn your feet in and hold. And little pulses in and out. And then turn the feet out. And little pulses out. Little tiny movements, finding the outsides of your feet and your legs. Everybody has one angle that is weaker than the other. Kaylee's is outside way.
Mine is both. They both hurt.
All right, so now bring your feet towards the ceiling, and we're going to think about the femur, the thigh bone, more than the feet this time. So active feet, and we're going to watch our feet and turn our legs this time. So turn our feet out, but use your legs to turn your feet out. Hold. So this might be really, really, really hard. Hold it here. Press your hips down into the ground. Look for compensation patterns. You might have fired up your lower back. Try to soften your lower back. A little bit of press down into the hips just to keep the hips stable and the legs up. Hold. You can do it. Breathe. Don't forget to breathe. Let go of the muscles in the neck and the face. And then bring the knees in and give yourself a little hug. Reset. And we only did one direction, so don't forget we have another direction. Maybe take some ankle circles, soften the ankles, whatever feels good. And then feet back up. Feet down to the shins. This time, thinking about the whole leg, we're going to turn the toes in. So thinking about turning that thigh bone in. Turn
That's
and
impressive.
hold. Just let me know your legs are shaking. Turn them in, hold. Very subtle movement. And again, do that body scan. Always doing a body scan. Look at your face. Soften your face. Soften your neck. Hold and breathe. Find some muscles in the legs. And then bring it in. Knees in. Reset. Julia has tears in her eyes. Take your hands and rub your hands on your shin. So bring a little circulation on your shin.
Was I supposed to be feeling it on my shins?
Yes. Well, it depends where you're weak. Where were you feeling it?
Oh, when we did the feet, my ankles, and then I don't know where I felt it on my legs. I must have felt it somewhere. I was shaking.
Hold on to your thighs, and we're going to take the lower leg in the circle. So nice, slow circle. But try to make the movement entirely with your lower legs. It's really hard not to cheat it with your thighs.
I can't do both at the same time.
Try to do the same direction of your circles. And then back. Reverse the direction of your circles. It's really hard to do without your thighs doing all the work.
My thighs are doing everything.
So you want to try and isolate all the muscles below the thighs and stop the thighs from doing all the work. Just finding range of motion in the joint below the thigh.
My thighs are doing everything.
But the thighs are huge, stronger muscles, so they want to do all the work. So bring your knees in. Give yourself a little hug. And then we're going to find leg circles from the hip. So bring the left foot down, knee up, right foot up. And then we're going to take really, really, really slow circles with this right leg. But we want to keep the hip grounded on the ground. So we're using the leg muscles, not rotation of the hip. So not letting that hip roll around to make a bigger circle. We want to find all the muscles in this leg. Every single angle, every single muscle. Go slow. The slower you go, the more a mind-body connection you have to find because you're using less momentum. And then reverse the circle. Momentum is cheating.
Momentum is your friend.
Bring that right foot down. Take a side shuffle with the knees and hips just to soften and loosen. Notice if your lower back was coming to the party for that exercise when it wasn't invited. Just kind of check in.
What's that?
I don't know, something beeped at us. That's very strange. Hopefully, still here. I don't know.
Good class. I'm enjoying it.
Bring the left foot up.
Sucks they don't get finished.
Take a long, slow circle. Notice you're trying to tune in to all the angles, all the muscles. Try to feel every part of your leg. So notice any points where you're feeling particularly weak or particularly tight. And then bring it back in the opposite direction, nice and slow. The slower you go, the more mind-body connection you're creating.
This direction's easier.
Try to keep those hips grounded. And then bring that down. Take a side shuffle with the knees and hips. Let go. Find your breath.
Tomorrow's New Year's Day. Aren't you excited?
Bring your knees in and give yourself a little hug. And we're going to roll on over to a side.
And come on up all the way to a tabletop position. So find your tabletop. We're going to move and breathe. Inhaling forward and exhaling back towards a child's, but not worrying about the shapes. More about turning inside and having an internal experience with your breath and movement. Inhaling forward and exhaling back. And then begin to think about all of the movements of the spine. Beginning from the toes, pressing forward. Inhale, coming to a big arch. Exhale, arching and hollowing out the opposite direction, pressing from the hands, sending the hips back. Thinking about your spine and having an internal movement from your feet to your hands, and then your hands to your feet. Seeing if you can do that same thing we were doing with our joints and our legs. Finding all of the angles our spine can move in. Finding all of the muscles that help our spine make those movements.
There's tapping dust on my shirt and it's tickling my nose.
And then land back in a tabletop position. Excuse me, wardrobe malfunction. Tabletop position. Pressing into the hands a little bit. Have lots of space for your wrists. So this should not be stressful on the wrist. Adjust the hands to where you have space and you feel comfortable in your hands, but your arms are engaged. Lift up out of the ground. And then we're going to take torso spirals. Nice, soft, slow spirals. Letting go in our torso. Finding space. Roll in the opposite direction. And then back to neutral, pressing into the hands, shoulder circles. Nice and slow and controlled. Not just rolling with the momentum. Move through your shoulders. And then take your hands a little bit wider. And we're going to move left, right. So really pressing into the hands, move the shoulders all the way over to the right. And then all the way over to the left. So when you move to the right, your left shoulder dips towards the ground. When you move to the right, when you move to the left, your right shoulder dips to the ground. When you move to the left, your right shoulder. Left shoulder. Jesus. Never mind. Shift your weight over to the right, left shoulder dips to the ground. Shift your weight over to the left, right shoulder dips to the ground.
There you go.
Got it.
I think that is a very...
I am left-right challenged on the best of days. Find some movement in the shoulders that feels good. Maybe you start to roll the shoulders a little bit. Rolling back and forth. Dipping the shoulder down as long as you're moving through muscle engagement and not just pressing into the edge of the joint. Find your muscles.
My muscles like that.
Bring your forearms
arms down to the ground, nice and slow. Engage the arms and the shoulders. Pull apart your mat with your hands. Find some more muscles. Drop the tension out of the neck and then send the shoulders down and back. Hips back. Feel like you're pressing into your knees, down through your knees into the ground and then pulling apart. So see how that fires up the back of the glutes, back of the legs. Engage from your base to your hands. Take the tension out of the neck. Maybe your head even finds the ground. This should feel like work. You should feel like you're engaged. Maybe engage your shoulders a little more. Maybe pull the stomach a little bit towards the spine. See how that feels. Engage. Find your breath. Breathe. Find some more muscles across the shoulders. So firing up those muscles so we know what it feels like to have them fired up. And then we're going to bring little tiny pulses into the shoulders. So we're just going to move our head up forward and then back just a teeny bit. This is a tiny movement. We're looking to engage and pulse all those shoulder muscles. Really tearing the mat apart. We're going to work these muscles so they know what they feel like turned on, so that when we want to turn them off, we can find the opposite. So building a little strength in our shoulders, maybe at a different angle than we're used to, so that we can let go of some of that tension. And then bring it back slowly to a tabletop. We're going to work with the wrists a little bit. So turning the hands out, so fingertips point out. Press the mat away from you. So press into the mat, lift up out of the mat, and take little sides. This time thinking about the wrist more than the shoulder. Turn the fingertips towards you. You may need to bring the hands closer to the knees. And then just opening up back of the wrists. Press into the fingers, activate the muscles in the arms, and then draw back. Find some movement, or you can hold static. And then bring your hands back to neutral. Slide your right hand in underneath your right knee. And this may be enough to just hold one hand at a time, or you can bring both in if you're comfortable with that. So either one hand at a time, or bringing both hands down. A little bit of pressure on your feet, on your knees, onto your wrists, onto your hands. Not stretching. A little bit of compression. So that when we slide slowly out, lift your hands up, come to a seat. If you want to come all the way to the seat, do you feel blood rushing to your hands? Wiggle your hands. Take some slow circles. Bring your hands to a fist. And then open nice and wide. Hands to a fist. Open nice and wide. So you should see the color starting to come back to your hands. Find a comfortable seat. Find a comfortable seat. Maybe you need a cushion. I'm actually going to grab a cushion because I've been sitting on the floor doing carpet staples. Take your thumb and take it onto the opposite hand, so left thumb onto right hand. And bring it on the base of this thumb and bring some circulation here. So pressing in, moving your thumb around on the base from the wrist to the base of the thumb. Just finding some movement here. And then see if you can find, there's often a little spot right near the wrist at the base of the thumb that when you find it, you're like, oh, that feels tight. So see if you can find that point. Just give a little pressure here. It's a little pressure point.
Other side, take the right hand to the left thumb, make some circulation pressure here. And then see if you can find the point. It's right near the base, pressing in towards the wrist. Imagine making space from this point in your wrist, in your hand. Imagine softening around where your thumb is holding. And then imagine softening all the way up that arm and into your neck. Maybe even into the face. And bring the fingertips together and press the fingertips in. Connect with feeling the tips of your fingers. And turn your hands down, fingers down, bring the backs of your wrists to point together. And then just take a little movement through your arms and wrists. Just seeing if you find any point that feels more tight. And then bring your hands up, palms up, and we're going to do that same restrict movement circles. So you want to keep your forearm from moving. I like to do it by just holding my forearm. So hold on to your left forearm. You're going to bring your left hand fingertips point down to the ground. You're going to find every point that your hand can move in a circle without using the forearm to do it. So move that hand in a circle. Notice any points that are particularly weak, clicky, or tense. Reverse your circle. Looking at the hand so that you know you're really trying to turn on that mind-body connection. And then bring the fingertips down, bring the fingertips in, and little pulses. Notice any compensation patterns that are beginning to form, maybe your lower back, your face, your neck. And then bring your hand to a tight fist. Bring your other hand over the fist. Squeeze. Tight. Take a deep breath. And with the exhale, you're going to drop the hands into the lap. Look down at your hands and notice if there's still any tension left in that left hand. Sometimes we have more gripping even when we let it go and we have no idea. So look at the hand, look at the other hand, notice if there's differences. And see if you can soften the palm of this left hand, maybe give it a shake. And then soften it some more, land it on your lap. See if you can soften it some more. Notice what your fingers feel like to let go. Sometimes we do this and we hold across our chest, or we cross our arms and we hold tight, or we hold fists and we have no idea we're doing it because we've been doing it as a habit for a very, very long time. So look at your hand. Notice what it feels like to have it loose and soft. If it doesn't feel loose and soft, take some more shakes. Try and get it to really loose and really soft. And then bring your right hand up. Hold your right hand. Pull the fingers down and then find some circles, trying to make the circle with your right hand only. Looking for points where it feels weak, where it feels clicky, or where it feels really tense and tight. Reverse your circle. And then bring your fingers down, fingers in towards center, and then little pulses. And then bring your hand into a tight fist. Lock it with the other hand. Bring it tight. Feel it tight. Take a deep breath. And then with the exhale, let both hands drop. Really soften. Look at both. Are they both soft? If they're not, give that right hand a shake. Let it soften. And try again. Notice what it feels like to be soft and not soft. And then bring both hands, one on top of the other, over the heart space. It doesn't matter which is on top. Feel the warmth of your hands in this space, right in the center of your chest. Imagine somebody tied a little string to the crown of your head and made you a little taller. Take out the pinch of your shoulders so we're not standing up straight. Let that pinch go. Soften the shoulders. Grow a little taller. And feel the warmth of your hands in your heart space. Find your breath. Maybe even close your eyes. Really connect with the warmth of your own hands in this space. And then we're going to practice using a little strong awareness on our breath so that when we go into our relaxation pose, we know what softness feels like in the torso. Still holding on to some warmth in the heart space. Just connecting to this space. We're going to start to breathe in long and slow. And breathe out long and slow, bringing a little muscular action to our breath. Breathing in long and slow. Breathing out long and slow. Maybe even forcing the breath through the mouth. Start to connect with the concept of filling up every single tiny cell in your lungs. And then emptying one by one every single tiny cell. And then begin to add gentle pauses at both the top of the exhale and the top of the inhale. So breathing in long and slow, closing for a gentle pause, and then breathing out long and slow and holding for another gentle pause. And then very slowly, with as much softness in the body as possible, maybe even keeping your eyes closed, make your way slowly down to your back. So, soft as you can be, onto your back. Finding whichever position on your back is most comfortable for you. Maybe your legs are up on a chair, maybe your feet are down and your knees are up, or maybe you're in full shavasana, whichever is your most comfortable resting pose. Just took your hands away from your heart space after them being there for quite some time. Connect to this space. Notice where you naturally put your hands. Maybe you brought them to your stomach. And there is no right and wrong answer, just notice. Notice your natural patterns of protection. And if you feel like today is not the day to experiment with not being protected, then go ahead and leave your hands where they are. And if you would like to experiment, try bringing one arm at a time, palm up as far wide as is comfortable for your shoulder. And then the other hand, palm up. Arms open wide as if you were laying on a lake, floating on your back. Still connecting to that open space of the heart center. I have a teacher that loves to say, you cannot have an open heart. You cannot live with an open heart if you do not have a strong back. We did a lot of back work today. So physically, we have our own backs. Metaphorically, the ground has our back right now. So imagine allowing this heart space to be open, allowing the ground to hold us. Imagine that you could breathe your fresh breath in through this heart space. Not with muscular force, just with intention. Breathing in fresh to this heart space. And letting things no longer need softly open up and dissolve through our open heart. Inhale, drawing in fresh to our open heart. Exhale, releasing things no longer needed. Releasing tension, releasing holding patterns, releasing some of those harsh judgments we use upon ourselves. Releasing words no longer needed, such as should or should not. And trying not to cognitively understand this exercise. Placing our awareness right in that heart center. Taking our head out of the game and just having a physical experience. Begin to let go of all thoughts of control of your breath. And imagine that you are surrounded in a bubble. And you can give your bubble a color or temperature, texture, whatever helps you connect to a bubble surrounding you, a bubble of protection. And this bubble contains precisely what you need in this moment. Imagine that you're drawing it in slowly and steadily into this open heart space. It's slowly and steadily beginning to trickle down as if touching every cell in your body, one cell at a time. You can give this energy from your bubble a color, a temperature, a texture. There are no right or wrong answers for your colors, just whatever helps you connect to the concept of drawing in energy to your heart center and letting it slowly trickle throughout your body. Feel like your bubble is filling you up to the very tips of your fingers, the very tips of your toes, as if your whole physical form is filled with a warm or cooling, glowing energy of unconditional love and kindness and whatever it is that you need in this moment. And then begin to feel like it's expanding back out and glowing. You're so full that you have enough to give back out. Imagine it slowly expanding to the people in your life that might need it. And the more that you have to draw in, the more that you have to give out. This constant recycling of unconditional love and kindness. And then bring to mind somebody you think may need to be wrapped in this bubble. It can be someone you know or someone you know of, just someone that you can visualize clearly. And regardless of your feelings for this person, try to not attach to your feelings and emotions for this person. Just see a visual of this person. See them standing as if they're standing in the room with you. And then imagine wrapping them in this unconditional bubble of energy. This bubble of unconditional love and kindness and whatever it is that they need in this moment. Trying not to cognitively be involved with this process, but visually, mentally, emotionally, energetically. Trying not to overthink. Just have a feeling experience of seeing this person wrapped in a bubble. See perhaps their face and their body language change. And then return to your own physical experience and notice perhaps if the feeling of sharing this energy had a change in your own physical feeling. And then if you need a little more time in your resting pose, feel free to lay here, tune out, and take as much time as your body needs. You're coming up on the 60-minute mark, so if you need to be somewhere or do something, begin to bring one hand at a time back to your heart center. Connect with your heart center as if sealing in your practice, sealing in any of the work that you did, sealing in any of the vibes that you need, the energy that you need. And just connecting back into your heart space. And bringing it in at a time to your chest. Curl up in a little ball and then roll over to whichever side is calling to you. Taking your time to ground down in a fetal position. Again, connecting to this heart space, this center space, our little light inside, our soul, whatever helps you connect with your center, the piece of you that's under all of the layers. Perhaps thinking of some of the negative words and stories and things that are holding us down, the layers and the weight that we carry on us, that perhaps we no longer need. perhaps there is a burden of shame around something that we've done that maybe we can let go of today. Imagine leaving it on the mat and rising up to your seat a little bit lighter. And bringing your hands to prayer at heart space, ending in this familiar pattern. Bringing our left and right sides to meet in front of our hearts as if accepting ourselves as whole and complete, exactly as we are. May we all know love, light, and connection. Thanks so much for joining us.